This is the Pete Wong Podcast, sharing the things that I love with those that I love. I've always wanted to talk about the things that I care about in life. People have told me time after time, why don't you just share more of you? And with that, let's go. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Pete Wong Podcast. How is everyone doing out there in the world? Everyone keeping safe, keeping warm, keeping cool, wherever you're at. I have an excellent guest today, and I am so interested in hearing more about him. And the cool thing is that this is the first time we're meeting each other. So
yeah,
Lee Davy is the founder of 1000 Days of Sober. He's an entrepreneur. He's a podcast host. He's a coach. And can I say the poker writer? Is it former poker writer or?
Former poker writer. Since November, actually, I left, yeah.
Awesome. We never met before. And the only thing I knew about you was just through the podcast. And then I started watching I watched some of the other YouTube videos, podcasts that you did with other people, and I loved it. I was like, I can't wait to get this guy in here. I feel like we have a lot of things in common. I love just like how transparent you are, you know. But I'm gonna let you share about you and we'll just go from there because I'm just excited. And I think you have a fascinating, very interesting story and lots of transformation involved in there. So it's just awesome to have you here.
Let's start with transparency, right? I mean,
yeah.
What are your views on that? Because there are, you'll read that right now I'm reading a book by Esther Perel called Mating in Captivity, right? About finding eroticism in relationships. And Esther's giving out the viewpoint that, hey, if you're married to Lee, then Lee is just so transparent. He's such an open book. There's no mystery about him, right? So like, if there's no mystery about him, where's the eroticism? Is it good to know this guy? Because you know everything about him. What else is there to like explore? And then there's the other angle that is like, transparency can be the key to being vulnerable, to fighting your shame and all that kind of stuff. Like, so where do you lie on the old transparency axis?
Well, a lot of my last couple of years, my transformation, and it was through my mentor, my best friend, Orpheus Black.
Yeah, we interviewed, right?
Yeah, exactly. I always wanted to be this person. And I always, I would always like hesitate to say the things that I wanted to say, believe in the things that I wanted to believe in. And so, and that dealt with, also being a man, in 2000s, 2021 now. But there was just so much that I had kept away. And I was, I realized that when I took some time, I realized that I was afraid of lots of things. And so when I saw other people, when I witnessed other people being in their true nature, whatever that looked like, it was like transparent, like in that sense, transparent, where they weren't hiding. They weren't fearful of showing who they are. And also, I think because we give that permission, I was in those spaces where people gave each other those permission. Like, I want you to be who you are, the very best self of you. And I was like, wow, isn't this what I always wanted? Yeah. Right. With Orpheus, the great thing is that he is such a presence, and he took me under his wing and he just showed me like, yeah, this is how it can be. But that's really interesting that you bring up, the duality of, transparency, because there is still mystery about me. It's just, I love that. That's an interesting conversation about that.
I mean, I had this conversation with my wife the other day, and me and my wife, we met each other in our mid-30s. So we've already lived a long life, right? Well,
Right.
so there's so much about each other we don't know. But
Mhm.
then I come along and I'm telling all my stories, and so it's important for our relationship that I'm a person of continual growth, so that
Mhm.
the mystery is not necessarily locked in my past, but my mystery is being unearthed into how I'm becoming a better version of myself on a day-to-day basis. So it's kind of like, wow, like this guy's so sexy and so hot right now. Like I've never been more attracted to him right now. Like what is to come? How good could this guy get? Um, is he really going to get on top of all these things that really piss me off? So like the mystery is locked in future thinking and presence, less than like going into the past and being like, yeah, here's another story, Lee. Like my wife's never going to listen to one of my podcasts, right? She's
Yeah.
gonna be like, fuck, here he is talking about his stories again that I heard a million times. But definitely more mystery on what we're learning and what we're getting into in the future for sure.
I love that. I love it when you talk about relationships and intimacy and your experience with it, especially the person that you are today.
Mm.
And so recently, since coming back to Minnesota, I met somebody, and I did a podcast with her, so people know who she is. It's just amazing the kind of growth that's happening between us.
Mm.
One night we were going through like the different love languages, taking the time and going, what is your love language, what percentage, just so we could have an idea of what that looked like. And then she coined the term courageous conversations. She liked that about me. She liked it that I
Mm.
and I never had heard that word, that putting it in those words that way before, and I'm using it so much more. And it's even a group that I run with my siblings and my girlfriend on Thursday nights. But courageous conversations, and I think within that is exactly like what you're talking about with you and your wife. Like there's these everyday moments where you're growing you're growing with each other, you're growing on your own, but as well together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Courageous conversations. I like that because it's allowing you to, with a courageous conversation, it's allowing you to dip into vulnerability.
Yeah.
And whether, addictions and relationships, it's like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or
Mm,
fish and chips, if we're back in the UK, right?
yeah.
They just go together. They're inseparable. Even if you're single, you have an unhealthy and toxic relationship with yourself if you're living an addictive life, right?
Right.
Um, and you got that whole codependent angle as well, like, how many people in your family and all this are involved. So relationships and addiction for me, they just go together.
Mm,
So it's really important in order to bust this thing and to kind of understand it more, is really to learn, like learn to be vulnerable and
mm,
to and a part of that is going way, 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 way back to when we were kids, and just two things for me is like, one, just speaking as you want to speak with no filter.
yeah.
um, and then secondly, asking really good questions, or the question why. Like my daughter now, she's 4. Yesterday we there's a guy down the road. He's got a bookshelf outside his house.
Mm.
So every now and then we go down there and we get books, right? So
Oh.
she picked a book yesterday, The Big Fat Zombie Goldfish. And I'm like, this is not going to be like a Zen book for her. I should not be getting her this book. But she loved it, and we've been reading it. And it's just like, why? Why is this fish dead? Why did they zap him back to life? Why is it a zombie? What is a zombie? Why? And every question, every answer I give her is another why.
Mm,
Now think what's happening in that relationship between a 4-year-old and a 46-year-old. She's challenging me to come up with the answers to help increase her knowledge. And her question is part of the journey of somebody who wants to grow and expand knowledge. But I
mm,
also then have to think, oh, what is the why? What is the answer to this? How do I explain this to a 4-year-old? Like some things I might not even know. Like like I know George A. Romero was the guy who did the first zombie movies, but what is a zombie? Is a zombie someone that doesn't have a heart? Is a zombie that doesn't have a brain? What is it about a zombie? And all right, zombies is irrelevant, right? What you're doing is you're training your brain to think.
Mm.
You're training your brain to say, okay, there's more, there's an answer, there's a thread, I need to pull it, shall I pull it? Which is very different to like when I was minding my addiction, which was I was the zombie, right?
Mm.
Like I am the thing walking around this planet with no brain, with no heart, with nothing happening other than my gene-based learning system, my instincts saying, Lee, you need to wake up. Lee, you need to go to work. Lee, you need to drive home. Lee, you need to tell your wife you love her because you haven't seen her all day. Lee, you need to eat dinner with your family. Lee, you need to watch telly. Lee, you need to read your son The Hobbit, put him to bed, go to bed, and do the same thing over again. That to me, and we use this, we have this assignment called Harry the Hummingbird in the Strive Method for Addiction, our 6-month workshop. And I'll tell you a little bit about it if that's okay, right?
Of course, yeah.
So you take a hummingbird. A hummingbird is a member of a charm. And every September, the black-chinned hummingbird, which is native to Los Angeles, the charm of black-chinned hummingbirds, they migrate to Mexico. They don't know why they migrate to Mexico. It's the gene-based learning system. It's instincts. It's hardwired in them over, I don't know how many years through Darwinism. And they just,
Mm.
when it comes September, off they go. Now, that is the vast majority of people who are in an addictive state, right? They're just kind of going with the flow. Their instincts are taking them, and it's much more complicated because we're not hummingbirds, but our society and our culture and our ideology and our worldview is cultivating our beliefs, which is cultivating and creating our personalities, which is then leading us to be instinctual and just go from A to B this way without even thinking about it, right?
Right.
Now imagine if we got older Harry, stuck him on the surgery table, and we gave him a neocortex.
Mm.
Now he would have a gene-based learning system, but he would also have a nerve-based learning system. He would start to want to think, to ask questions. He would be like my daughter with this book in her hand. Why? And one of the key things about thinking and the neocortex is we want to experiment. We want to try different things. We want to taste this. We want to fuck that. We want to play with this. We want to fight with that, right? And then through trial and error, we're kind of figuring out what the best way through life is. So if you give Harry a fully conscious brain, send him to Mexico with the charm, and then Harry decides halfway there, actually, I want to go down to that island and I want to fuck that really lovely looking hummingbird. What do you think is going to happen? Well, first of all, the charm is going to go crazy, right? Like, what are you doing, Harry? This is the way to Mexico. Nah, I'm just going to go down to this island and I just spotted this beautiful little hummingbird. No, Harry, this is the way to Mexico. We are hummingbirds. This is what we do. No, I'm going down in this island. Well, if you're going down there, you're not a hummingbird anymore. You're not part of our charm. Like, we don't want you as part of our group. Like, see you later. What happens to Harry? Harry internally is going, oh, fuck, what's going on? I really want to go to the island. I really want to try do something different. My brain's telling me to go there. But my brain's also telling me that if I don't go with his charm right now, my life is over. That I am one solitary hummingbird. I'll have no friends. No one will love me. No one will like me, and I will die. What do I do? And then this fight happens in their mind. And the way that the brain deals with a fight between the gene-based learning system and the nerve-based learning system, it wants you to choose a side.
Mm.
Because what you're producing now is cognitive dissonance. It doesn't want cognitive dissonance. If you're thinking like, what's cognitive dissonance? I want to stop drinking, but I don't really want to stop drinking. I want to stop smoking, but I love that fag after sex. Do you really need to stop forever? That ambivalence, that is a cognitive dissonance. And what too many of us did when we were younger, way, way, way before we were prepared to be making these massive decisions. Like way before we had all the information that was out there for us to make an informed decision. We had no mentors around us who even had this knowledge to impart upon us. We had this cognitive dissonance and we said, fuck it, we'll go with a charm. We will not go to an island. We will not experiment. We will not ask questions. We will not ask why. We will not challenge. We will not speak our truth. We will not be transparent. We will just follow the charm. Right. And, that's how you end up drinking too young, drugging too young, fucking too young, messing around in school when you should be getting educated. Like everything that locks you into the matrix happens as a result of a decision you made when you were not really ready to make it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I kept on thinking of yeah, like growing up. There were so many moments where I saw myself doing something else, but everything that I knew at that time, there was no safety net. There was no like, if you go this way, it's gonna be all right. It was so therefore let's follow the crowd or follow everybody else. When you reached out to me, to do the podcast, I started learning as much as I could on alcohol addiction, and aside from knowing more about you, but I was watching these different documentaries, and it was tough. Because I didn't realize like how truly intense it can get. And they had like, there was one documentary where they had like different levels. The first one was just this girl, she'd go to party every weekend, and then all the way to the third or fourth story where the guy was shaking, and he felt like he had a drink to because they mentioned that, and I love that I had never heard of that, but like the frontal cortex, I think.
Frontal lobe, yeah.
Frontal, and they're saying that it eats away at it. I don't know if I have that correct, but I just thought it was fascinating because I didn't know that at some point you can get to a point where even your value system, or even your like what's right, what's wrong, the thing to help you stop, they're saying it disintegrates. And I just felt so grateful that I get this opportunity to meet you and to learn about what you're doing, because I thought about all the times, even in myself, like I'm not I don't drink a lot, but just how natural and how easy it is for me to fall into that narrative of society narrative of, oh, I need a drink to relax, or oh, we're getting together with the friends, let's drink. Right. I started thinking about that, and I'm like, wow, like even that, I have to be careful of what I'm projecting out into the world, what kind of message I'm sharing with other people. And I remember one specific example, and I'm not going to name him because I didn't talk to him beforehand, but I have a friend in LA, very close friend. We became best friends through work. Given his family's history, at the time that we were hanging out, he was beginning to try to cut less drinking, to the point of where we went out after work one night and everyone at the table was drinking, and he was like, I'll have a Coke. And even me was like, hey, come on, like, what's one drink? Right?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's up?
And yeah, exactly. And once I recognize his need, his truth, I knew that I had to step up for him. I knew that I had to be like, switch it. Like now I assume he's not gonna need, he's not gonna drink. I'll make it a norm that when we go out, Like that's not a part of, him.
Hmm.
And it's been great, but I had to really think about that, and it's just intense. And I actually wanted to talk to you about that,
Hmm.
about some of these spaces where it can be so intense. I have close friends here in Minnesota that are Hmong, and there's a lot of tradition about, you know, passing around the bottle, or passing around, and then if you didn't, you would get flack. You would get, like,
Yeah, yeah.
like that. And so it's
It's
intense.
I mean, you would have done a lot of work around ritualizations and with Orpheus, right? Like,
Yeah.
like it's one of the things I wanted him to come on the podcast because society is shorn these days of proper rituals. Like we don't have them anymore, and they've been
Exactly.
replaced by pseudo rituals. So one of the
Mm,
biggest pseudo rituals where I grew up was, um, you need to drink alcohol as in order to gravitate from being a boy to a man.
mm,
What they, in my experience, though, my personal experience, what happened when I started drinking is my boyness, my immature masculine energy, the hero, like the apex of like boy energy, got trapped in this male body. So I started to grow and become a man, but I was locked as this boy.
mm,
Like, so it wasn't a ritual to go from boy to a man. It was a pseudo ritual. It was bullshit. Like I thought I was turning into a man, but I wasn't. I was just assigning myself to be a boy in perpetuity, right? I just
mm,
didn't want to like there was no way that I was going to grow into being a fully developed man. And quite recently, one of my wife said to me, like one of the best compliments that I could receive on my journey in the last 12 months. I gave up drinking 10 years ago. In the last 12 months, she said, it finally feels like I'm married to a man.
wow.
I'm not married to a boy no more. Right? Imagine that. Like you're 45 and there's a little boy in there managing your life. How unattractive is that to women? Like, how detrimental is that to your children, right? So
Mm,
we had these ritualizations, but they're really pseudo ritualizations. The other thing, picking up on what you talked about there is one of the biggest reasons that people find it really difficult to drink is peer pressure,
mhm.
is what we talked about with Harry breaking away from the charm. So in your example, your friend is Harry,
Yeah.
and you're a member of the charm. Now you're more aware of what's going on. You can not ask him. You can not say to him, "Oh, wow, what's wrong with you?" Or that type of thing. Or, "No, you're okay. Have a drink. Are you okay?" Right?
Yeah.
You kind of know now. Actually, he might be having a hard time right now being the non-drinker, and those kind of questions, although designed to help him, like we're coming from a place of helping him and aid and inquiry, like we're concerned generally, we're not trying to like ridicule him. He could feel shame. It could trigger his shame, and it could trigger him to drink, and then he'll end up on 1000 days sober or
Mm,
Strive, our little community, saying, I went out with my friends last night and I wasn't going to drink. And as soon as my friend said to me, what's wrong with you? I felt like so small. I had to have a drink. That happens all the time. So having that understanding is amazing. Going one step even further when we're like really woke is I'm going out with Pete tonight. I know Pete doesn't drink. I ain't drinking.
yeah.
I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm not going to say, hey, I'm not going to drink because of you. If he turns around and says to me, are you not drinking because of me? I'm going to say, no, I'm making the decision not to drink. You're not drinking. I just want to be on your level. Because think about this. Me and you right now having a conversation. I'm assuming you haven't had a drink. I don't know. You might have, right? Who knows?
Nope.
Right? No
Yeah.
alcohol. Okay.
Yeah.
We could probably talk for hours, get really deep, get to know each other,
Mhm.
really reveal parts of ourselves. We could have fun. We can have a laugh. We can like get emotional as well. We might cry, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But usually when someone's a podcast host, they like talking to people. You said you're interested in my transparency. Likelihood is we'll connect at a deep level, right?
Mm,
Likelihood we will connect on a deep level in this 60 minutes. Now let's have a pitcher of beer each.
mhm.
Stick us in a pub. Stick a jukebox on. stick a stripper on the table, stick a load of beers and jangly things, like stick a pool table there, etc. Now we've got external stimuli, bit of noise. You can't really hear anything because the music's on, right? But you're feeling a jive, you like music, that's okay. But the more and more we drink, society has woven a story, a compelling story, which tells us and creates a belief system that the more we drink, the more connected we will become. But what in truth will happen is the more we drink, the more disconnected we will become. See, the more I drink, the more self-centered I will become, the more egoic I will become. I will not be listening to you. I won't be hearing you. I will not be present for you. I won't give a fuck what you're saying. I would just be interested in getting my shit in front of your face as quick as I can. Why do I know that? Pretty much like that when I haven't had a drink. So when I'm like that, when I had a drink, I'm a fucking million times worse than that, right? Now, what's happening for you? I don't know, but it's unlikely that the more and more you drink, the more the closer you're going to come to me. I was operating in states of semi-blackout most of the time. How can that be connected to somebody, right?
Right.
So it's bullshit. So your friend, when he's out with all you guys drinking, if you if there's not someone amongst you that isn't drinking as much as everybody else, and I know culture's different. When I used to go out in South Wales, I
Mm.
was out with like 10 guys. There's a round of 10. That means they're going to drink 10 pints. They could even drink 20 if we're out all day. Like
Mm.
that's what I'm talking. Like, how am I going to enjoy that conversation being the person drinking Coke when the other 10 people are drinking alcohol, which is distancing themselves from me? It ain't going to happen. You're going to feel so uncomfortable, but you're not feeling uncomfortable because you're the non-drinker. You're feeling uncomfortable because all of a sudden you realize this is fucking boring.
Hmm.
And when you feel bored,
Hmm.
it's a red light. It's like there's something really wrong right now. There's something really wrong in my life right now. If I'm bored right now, there's something really wrong. Either my wife is boring, my husband is boring, my friends are boring, my environment where I live is boring, my house is boring, my job is boring, my entire life is boring. There'll be something like that that is boring. In this instance, our friends.
Hmm.
And how confronting is that? Holy shit. We might tick all the boxes.
Yeah.
Like when I was drinking, my wife is boring. My kid is boring. Well, how can a kid be boring? Well, when a 46-year-old is like interacting with a 4-year-old at a times when you're going to get bored because being intellectually stimulated. Yeah, of course, right? My
Hmm.
environment is boring because there's no growth. The pub is boring. My friends are boring because they're all in the charm. They're all locked in this state of no internal growth, no internal conflict, no desire to kind of like learn or go or think about anything differently. So all of a sudden, it's like fucking hell.
Hmm.
Do you know how difficult it is to just like let your friends go, let your wife go, let your
Hmm.
kids go, move home, emigrate, leave your job? Nobody wants to do that shit. So you drink because if you drink, you don't have to fucking deal with it. It's what Gay Hendricks calls an upper limit problem. It's got a ceiling, and just above that ceiling is this fucking amazing life. There's a beautiful woman out there for me who's going to fucking really take me to the next level. There's a beautiful home for me where it's cheaper, but it's beautiful and it's safe and it's secure. There's a wonderful job that I don't even know exists with skills and talents I don't even know I have. I have a group of friends who are amazing. They're going to love me, to support me, they're going to take me to the next level, right? All that is just above that line. But to get there, I got to ditch everything I got right now. Put the brake on. I ain't doing any of that shit. So you self-sabotage yourself. You'll drink,
Hmm.
you'll do some coke, you'll have a fight with someone you love, whatever it is, you get sick, you'll injure yourself. You do whatever it takes to make sure you don't have to deal with that shit because it's just too scary to have all that love and that joy and that wonderful, creamy stuff that's up there in that cloud, right?
Hmm.
So this is why we get people who are going out and they're just saying, fuck it. I'm the only one not drinking. I'm not doing that. I'm going to drink. right? I mean, that's like a big, deeper, expansive look at it.
Mhm.
But that's what's going on all over the world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this you're talking about the ceiling and just above it. So,
Well, and do you know what happens when you
yeah.
get above that ceiling? There's
Mm,
another one. And
oh,
then there's another one.
right.
You've got a ceiling. I've got a ceiling. Orpheus has got a ceiling.
Right.
David Beckham has a ceiling. The Spice Girls have a ceiling. The Queen has a ceiling.
Mm,
Because we could just keep going.
yeah.
But at some point, we're either too comfortable or we're too stuck or we're too afraid, right?
Mhm.
But we all have a ceiling. Like 1,000 days sober, our job is to identify what that is.
Hmm.
And a lot of times you need people to help you out. Like, because again, if we live in a world that lacks transparency
Mhm.
and we kid ourselves and keep ourselves small and say things like, yeah, you know, the reason my relationship isn't working is because Pete's a twat. And your friends around you go, yeah, I can see that. I can see how he's a twat. Like, how many people are going to go, oh, actually, Lee, don't know how to break this to you, but I can see that you're a bit of a twat as well sometimes. Actually, I can see being in a relationship with you, you'd be a fucking nightmare. Actually, I've seen the way that you behave with Pete sometimes, and I thought to myself, whoa, what the fuck? I just want to give you that feedback. Like, who the fuck does that?
Yeah. Yeah. Those with courage.
Courageous conversations, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the kind of space that, like you're talking about, uh uh with your program, the community, having a community. And I've noticed that, like, more and more, even if it's just a few people, as long as those few people are in my life, like, I know that I'm like unstoppable in a way.
Mm, mm.
And and for me, it was translated through, oh, I just happened to be wearing the shirt. um it's cool how that works. We talked about, boxing and Muhammad Ali, and how do you have that confidence going in the ring, right? And you're going to get beaten, that kind of stuff, but what does it take to keep going and to see yourself, to see your value? I know I love how, many times, in your when you shared your story, I love how you use the word value, and you were like, I didn't see any value in that. And when people, like you were saying, in life you will get bored, you'll get bored, but it's that turning, it's that I'm going to make that change, that, and that's the other thing I was going to say I really admire about, at least from what I gather about you, is your commitment. You've made a decision and you're sticking to it,
Mm.
so that's
Yeah.
conviction. And that's awesome, and I in the recent years, I see the value in that, and it's not easy, but, that we're going past that. We're going past, it's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always get people reaching out to me, like, hey, what's new? And it's like, do you have time to sit down with me and hear what's new? Because I want to tell you, but you might not be that person that wants to hear. You just want to ask me because you're falling back into, that robotic programming, and that's
Yeah.
why it's hard sometimes to have those conversations with certain people, and that's why I'm not as close to those people.
Hmm. I think you make a
Yeah.
good point when you say like you only need a few people in your life, right?
Mm.
Imagine how complicated it would be if we had 20 people in our life who were our best friends forever and they were always needing our attention to like get involved, to hang out, to have deep conversations, etc. It would blow your fucking mind. You just wouldn't have time to like talk to 20 odd people. So very often when we go through addiction and we're really worried that we're going to lose all our friends, okay, that may happen. You won't be losing them. You'll be making a decision to upgrade. Um, you don't you don't need to go out and find an army of them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to work like that. You only need a few. You don't need a few people around you. To if you need more than that, like I would be like, seriously, what's going on here? What's going on? Why do I need 20 people? Right. So like, yeah, just one or two friends. And it is really confronting, and it is really difficult and very vulnerable as an adult to, go up to another guy like I did once, go to another guy in a health food store and go, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's talking to me. I'm like, "I really like you. Do you want to change numbers?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then we became friends. I mean, that is like scary shit, right? Like you're not in a school playground anymore. Like
Yeah.
is he there thinking, what is this guy trying to kind of pick me up? Like what's going on? Like
Right.
you just have to try and do these things,
Mm.
like experimenting. It's like what we said with Harry, right? It's like Harry wants to experiment. Then when you stop drinking alcohol and the fog lifts, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I want to experiment about life a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And I did, by the way, when I said it's really difficult to lose your wife, lose your kid, lose your environment, I lost everything. Like
Mm.
everything changed. So I got divorced after a 20-year relationship. I left a 20-year career. Obviously, I didn't get to see my son that much because he stayed with his mom. I traveled around the world, like interviewing poker players and writing about poker whilst building 1,000 Days Sober. And then I finally fell in love, had another child, and moved to a different country.
Mm.
That's like changing every aspect of your life. But if you would have told me that I would do all that whilst I was in my first life, I would never have believed that that would have even been possible.
Mm.
My ceiling would have been so low, I would never have believed my capability to do that. And because of that, I know that if everything falls apart right now, that it will hurt, I'll suffer, it'll be painful, and then I'll just get on with life, right?
Yeah.
Like some people might think, oh, it's a bit harsh. But I would like I honestly believe that if my wife wanted to leave me tomorrow, she would find somebody on this planet who is better suited to her than I am.
Mm.
I believe that. And she would just keep getting better and better models. Like I really do. Because there's 7.8 billion people in the world. Why would I be the one for her?
Mm.
We're not soulmates. Like,
Mhm.
we are attracted to each other because of a myriad of different reasons, but our souls weren't attracted to each other and we're going to be with each other forever and ever. Oh man, I don't think that's the way life works. I really don't, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's great. I was like, do I do the traditional, podcast thing and ask you to tell your story? And I love it how you right away shifted gears, and this is great. I appreciate you, being open and just talking about, taking things in a different direction, because I was like, I don't know if he wants to just tell his story.
Well, then I
So
can't tell anyone to listen to podcasts because they'd be like, "Oh, there's Lee talking about the story again."
do
And
you
like
yeah.
story gives you like if someone's listening to this and they want to start drinking alcohol or they just want to live a conscious life, the
Hmm.
story will be inspirational. But that's just
Hmm.
like part of the soup. What does Jack Canfield say? The chicken soup for the soul. I'm vegan, so the mushroom soup for the soul. Right? Like,
Yeah.
inspiration's only part of it. Then you've got to you got to look at life like a video game, right? So like, there's this fantastic book called Reality is Broken by Jay McGonigal, and she reminds you that all the great video games, they first and foremost, you have to voluntarily participate in the game.
Hmm.
All right. So if you're stuck in the matrix, are you voluntarily participating in the game? Think of Neo in the movie The Matrix, right? Was he voluntarily participating in the game? He was in the wrong fucking game,
Yeah.
right? That's what happens when we have no internal conflict, we have no internal growth. There's this Polish psychotherapist called Krasimir Dabrowski. And he created this theory on mental health called positive disintegration. So I can't remember how many levels are. Maybe there's 5 levels of growth, mental growth. Now, the first level is unilevel, right? This is where we have no internal growth. We have no internal conflict. We have no internal drive to do anything other than what we're doing. And we receive our direction and our instructions and our goal and our purpose from external sources. My mom says, I got to do this. I got to do it. My boss said, I got to do this. I got to do it. My friends are doing this. I got to do it. That's what they call unilevel 1. Unilevel 2, so it's unilevel because we're not going anywhere. Unilevel 2 is when we start to go, oh, maybe I shouldn't drink alcohol. Maybe there's a reason why I'm feeling really shit. Why am I feeling so lonely? Why do I cry myself to sleep every night? So we're asking the questions, but we're not answering them. So we just keep going around in a loop. And then we start to have light bulb moments where, oh, I'm going to stop drinking for 30 days, right? Like if I stop drinking, what would happen? So I stop to see what happens. And then I realize, fuck, this is really hard. Well, it's not hard to stop drinking celery juice. So what's going on here? I thought that I didn't have a problem with alcohol and everything was groovy. Why have I got a problem trying to stop it when I wouldn't have a problem stopping celery juice? So those questions. So you go up to level 1. Eventually, when you get to level 5, you're like Dalai Lama or whatever, right? You know? But it's really important to kind of like understand where you are on that kind of axis. When you're in uni level, you're not voluntary participating because you know what the fuck's going on. You don't even know you're in the game. You're not choosing to do anything. So like I didn't choose to drink alcohol. I didn't make a conscious choice to drink alcohol because I drank alcohol when I was 14 for the first time. How the heck can I make a conscious choice to drink alcohol when I'm 14? I don't know I'm going to be addicted to it 20 years later. No one told me that part of the story, right? So voluntary participation. So if you want to have a great life, a great game of life, you need to voluntary participate in it. So when people come to me and they're like, I want to see what this sobriety thing's all about, but I really fucking love drinking. If I could have my own way, I would just drink moderately. Then they're not voluntary participating because they really want to drink, but they're forced to be here. So that's going to be a problem, right? Second thing is you need a good feedback system. So if you're stuck in that uni level and you've got no internal growth and you're just going with the flow, very often we're in that state because our flow is toxic. So our feedback system, our mentors, our teachers, our parents, our uncles, our grandmas, our friends, our employees, very often they're toxic. Very often they have got no internal growth. Very often they're in the uni level as well. So you're not going to get a feedback system. What we were talking about earlier on, the person who's going to have that courageous conversation with you, the person who's going to tell you to read this book, the person who's going to tell you to take that course, the person who's going to give you the advice that's going to change your life, right? So you need a feedback system. All great games have great feedback system. Then you need a goal. What is it I'm aiming for? What is it I'm shooting for? Every great game has a goal, right? Like what is the goal? Tetris has a goal, right? We need to like get these blocks and they need to fit in. That's the goal. Okay. And then there's rules. We need rules that produce constraints. Now, we often look at constraints and think to ourselves, constraints are a really bad thing. Let's flip that and look at constraints as a wonderful opportunity to grow. Oh, this wall's in my way. How do I get around this wall? This woman just divorced me and she won't let me see my child and I'm feeling really angry towards us now. Oh, that's a constraint. How do we get around this so I don't feel anger anymore? Right? I'm drinking alcohol and every time I try to stop, I'm going to the pub. The pub is a constraint. How do I remove or deal or mitigate the problems that arise from that constraint? So games are exciting, right? Like I have this constraint. It's an unnecessary obstacle. The only reason it's there in the game is because it gives us a problem. And then we need to get around the problem. It's like the archetypal hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. Any hero's journey, any movie or story you read, is a series of unnecessary obstacles that the writers put in the way that creates tension, which gets you like, fuck, is the hero going to do this? What does the hero do to get over the obstacle? He gets a tribe of people to help him, which is your feedback system, right? So we have rules, like we have daily practice, right? Like if the goal is to live a conscious life, then we're going to have daily practice. We're going to have rules. I'm going to be a meditator. I'm going to be a yoga practitioner. I'm going to have a mentor every moment of my life. I'm going to journal. I'm going to create a podcast. I'm going to create a company that serves others. I'm going to always be on a training course. Like these are rules. These are your morals, your ethics, your values. And your feedback system will allow you to know if you're on point with those. And you'll know if you're on point with them because you'll be feeling it. You'll be emitting a certain kind of energy. You'll be getting into states of flow better, which is why games are really cool. Now, here's a really important thing, right? Talked about Tetris earlier on. Tetris is an infinite game, right? It just goes on and on and on and on. And that's why it's so amazing, because there's no end to it. Now, imagine if you say to yourself, my goal is to be someone that doesn't drink alcohol. We go to 1,000 days sober and we help you be someone that doesn't drink alcohol. Now you've achieved your goal. Well, the game's ended. What now? What now? What if you just suddenly go back to your life? You haven't drank alcohol. You don't drink anymore. Lee's cured you of that. I don't drink, but my wife's boring. My kids are boring. My home is boring. My environment boring. My culture's boring. My job is boring. How long is it going to be before you start drinking again? How long is it going to be before resistance tells you that the chaos you had before was life and that what you have now is dead, right? So what if you change the goal and say to yourself, the goal is to be a conscious human being? Well, that's finite. Sorry, infinite. Let me get this right the right way around, right? Because by the time I die, I'm still going to be growing. Right. By the time I pop my clogs, I'm still going to be growing. There's going to be no end to it. So like choosing like an finite versus an infinite goal, I think is like a really important part of it as well, you know, and it's something that we put into the Strive method for addiction, because I think that we need to have fun. We need to tap into our creative energy. Creativity is always going to elevate you above your depression, your stress, your anxiety, et cetera, you know, and these constraints that we have. What is like the biggest internal constraint most of us have is dealing with our emotions or not reacting to our emotions. Well, what if our emotions were our superpowers? Do you know, like Mario has a superpower and all of a sudden he grows bigger, or Sonic grows faster? What if instead of saying, I really hate fear, I drink because I'm afraid, do we go, well, actually, fear is intuition. Like just paying more attention right now to what's going on. That's fear, right? But we don't look at it like that. We think fear is, oh, fucking hell, horror movie, right? Or I'm afraid of change. Yeah. But fear really is intuition. It's like learning to pay attention. You know what I mean? To be okay with the silence and the stillness. So you can practice fear and you can bring it on and you can feel it. And you can really get yourself by visualizing to become afraid and to let it do its thing. And be like, okay, so actually, when I get lost in my intellect, when I get lost in my thinking, when Lee's talking to me about alcoholism being an invisible, violent, and dominant belief system, and he's really rational and he's in his intellect, sometimes I'm going to need my emotions to help me out here because I'm lost in thought. Right? Sometimes I'm going to lean on my emotional intelligence. Sometimes I'm just going to have to be intuitive, right? Should I have this guest on my podcast or not? Well, we can do like a pluses and minus chart, pros and cons, logic, or we can go with our gut. Yeah, right. Because our intuition, our energy, our emotion is a different way of making decisions than rationality and intellect. But we're not culturally pushed towards emotion. Think about the poor women in the world, right? Oh, she's just too emotional.
Mm.
Well, how's she going to feel? Well, I can't be too emotional because that's not allowed for a woman, right? Well, she's missing a superpower. She's not able to be her full, powerful self. Like culture has a
Yeah.
lot to answer for in like all of these things, and they all meet really to this apex of not living consciously, just being completely absorbed, like just lost in this fucking matrix, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. A lot of great stuff in that. You know that Pixar the movie Soul?
Yeah, I watched it a couple of weeks ago. My family, yeah.
Before yesterday, I had some issues with it, but I only saw it once.
Hmm.
And I liked it, but I felt like I wanted more. But then yesterday I watched some people talking about it and what the meaning behind that film was. Every Sunday, my family gets together on Zoom. Ever since we've been in the pandemic,
Yeah.
we get on Zoom and it's become our ritual to do a check-in with each other.
Yeah.
And then my sister started something called the hot seat, where we draw a name out of whatever hat or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we get to fire off questions, not fire, but we get to ask questions that we always wanted to know, or maybe we just thought of. And no one's ever turned down a question, but there's been some amazing stuff that's come out of it.
Hmm.
And on Sunday, my mom shared. My mom is a very strong person, a beautiful person, but it's your mom. So there's always like certain vulnerabilities. Like, do you say that? Is it okay? The things that my mom shared with us, it really put a perspective, because I used to think of this like when I'm coaching, I always think of that, what is your purpose? But then through what happened on Sunday to yesterday, watching these videos on Soul, I was like, because a lot of what you're talking about, I feel like there's a connection here on just living life to the fullest, but being conscious, being aware, and being present, but being in I guess I'm still figuring it out. I'm still figuring
Yeah.
it out, but it's really been, like last night I didn't sleep till late because I was writing just my thoughts. I was just like putting it out there, just in a Google Doc, and I was trying to figure out, because for the first time in my life, I'm not thinking about so much the things that I'm afraid of, um, the things that I tried to control at one point, my identity, all these things that for a long time I struggled with for such a long time. I always felt like I was chasing. I was always fighting something, and I'm a fighter, but
Hmm.
in that sense of never feeling calm and just enjoying, like I enjoy life, but I don't think I fully, because I was always chasing something, chasing money, chasing a person. Um,
Hmm.
but thinking about that movie Soul, and just that life is about just the meaning is to live.
Yeah. Like in what are you doing in
Yeah.
the moment? I mean, what you said about the hot seat with your family, I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Like that's amazing. Like I
Yeah.
just made a note, do the same thing. Me
Yeah.
and my family are so disconnected. So that would be a
Mm,
great way of us getting on together, because I don't invariably like getting together with everybody, because everybody just has matrix style conversations. And you know, very often a lot of my family will show up drunk, which
mm,
means and I don't like that, because now I'm like, okay, you're robbing me of my connection. And that's the whole point of us being here. It's not to see it. It's not to tick a box. It does become like that for me.
Yeah.
Like I need to see my mom tick this box. I don't want it to be like that. So I'll definitely look at that hot seat. Soul for me,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like I would have to watch it again. But my initial thoughts on it was, oh yeah, like life is just finding the beauty in a fallen leaf.
Hmm.
So today, for example, like it's 3 o'clock right now, right? In LA. When we finish, I'm gonna go for a walk, I'm gonna make a smoothie, and then I've got a little bit of time before I become a dad, right?
Hmm.
And I've been in a bit of a scarcity funk last week, right? Like I've been battling this this part of me that's trying to drag me below the line. And
Oh,
whenever I get into a scarcity funk, I get into a time funk. So then I'm kind of like, oh, I ain't got enough time, I ain't got enough time, which then takes me away from the soul.
yeah.
And the point of the movie is like, just what, Lee, what if today your win and your purpose to be on this earth was to have a conversation with Pete, which was going to just change somebody's life? What if that was it? Is that enough? Do I need to cram more in? Like, what is enough? What is good enough? What is like, what does it all mean? So there needs to be for me, a switch, a flipping of the switch of you always have enough time. Um, and the big one for me is that results don't take time; it takes courage. So how can I be more courageous now in order for me to get my shit done? So like if I really want to spend more time with my kids, if I really want to spend more time with my wife, then that's less time doing work stuff. Okay. So what's the trade-off here? Do you let your work stuff deteriorate, or do you work a bit smarter in that area to get other people to do things that you would otherwise do in order for you to spend more time with your family? Of course, courage comes into it because it's a it's it feels a courageous thing for me to spend more time with my 4-year-old. Some people listening to that might think that's fucking crazy. Why wouldn't you want to spend more time with your kids? Because I get really drawn more to my meaning and purpose around my work. I just do. And I think that's an element of being a man and building my kingdom and um, not being satisfied that it's built yet.
Hmm.
So 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 I have to say to myself, Lee, you need to find a way of having fun and love and being present and really switching the way you think. And to me, it's all around time.
Yeah.
It's all around time, which I think if you look at soul, that's stitched into the fabric of the story as well.
Mhm.
Because he's like he needs to be he needs to be different than he is, and he thinks he's going to run out of time to be that person that he is. Like, you know what I mean? Like he wants to be this ace musician, and then in the end, it's like, you don't need to be a musician. Your drive to be the musician means you're bypassing life, right? Like my drive to grow 1,000 days sober may mean that I'm bypassing life. What does that mean? Well, I got a 20-year-old kid. I remember when he was 4 yesterday. I have a 4-year-old now. She'll be 20 tomorrow. Do I want to bypass that? Like, I don't know what the answers are, but
We're asking the questions though.
and we're thinking
Yeah.
about it, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. We're aware of,
Yeah.
oh, I don't always feel very comfortable being with my children,
Yeah.
and I'm aware of that, and I can choose to do something about that or not. But I'm not hiding the fact that those feelings exist,
Yeah.
and I have those courageous conversations with my wife.
Hmm.
Because it is courageous, because your wife could turn around and go, wow, this guy's a heartless bastard, let's kick him out and go find someone else. But I think you would have had these conversations with Orpheus. It's like, for me, thinking those things is normal. Like all the so-called freaky, fucked up shit that goes around in my head that I used to think was freaky, fucked up shit is just normal.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own version of freak. Everybody. And, just let that freak flag fly, right? Like,
Yeah.
just fucking boom. And that's a gift to people. Hopefully, someone's listening to this now going, oh, wow, I'm going to start talking about these. I'm going to do a hot seat with my family,
Oh,
right? That would be a major game. Imagine if all the families in the world had a hot seat.
yeah.
What a difference that would make. I'm glad you brought that one to me, Pete.
Hmm. Thank you for recognizing it. Yeah, sometimes we do things, and if we don't share it with somebody, we don't know, we don't see the value in it. I mean, like I see the value with my family, but I was just thinking the other day, I was like, I wish more people did that. I wish I talked more about it. So
Yeah, well,
thank you, Lee.
what you're doing, you're creating a platform to turn assumptions into reality.
Mm,
Like part of the problem in the world right now is we all do it, is we assume so much. Well, let's start finding out what reality is.
mm,
Like I assume that my dad doesn't have a loving bone in his body. Well, let's ask him.
yeah,
Let's ask him what love is like for him. And and then I can share with him how it feels to receive or not receive his vision of love. But I
mm,
don't know until I ask him, right? You
yeah,
know, I'm picking up an emotional attunement that my wife is really angry with me today.
mm,
Okay, well, if you run with that assumption, what's your life going to look like for the rest of the day? Versus asking, hey, see, you're a little bit funky at the moment, and I'm actually making myself feel responsible. And I wanted to check in with you if there was any truth around that. No, it's got nothing to do with you. I just, you know, stub my toe. I don't fucking know. Assumptions will fuck you up like big time.
learning a lot about that one in this
Mm.
relationship. Yeah, it's been good. Was there anything that you wanted to specifically tackle about that you wanted to share for the regarding the program that we haven't touched on specifically? And then are you okay if we do the 5 questions with you? I do I do
Sure.
I do
Yeah.
5 random questions with my guests. So
Yeah. Okay. So on the so what if you want to learn more about the work that I do, then just get over to www.1000dayssober.com, right? Um, we are we currently have an addiction course called the Stride Method for Addiction. It's heavily geared towards alcohol, but we have people on there as well who are trying to give up smoking. Weed is another one that's come up quite often. So yeah, check that out. It's like 6 months long. We're always got workshops and Facebook groups that we run for free to give you a flavor of that before you can, take the leap. We also have a relationship course called Connection, Cultivating Conscious Relationships. Same thing. We'll always run in like private Facebook groups, 12-day challenge, giving you some real good, solid content for nothing. And then you're like, yeah, okay, I trust this guy, knows what he's talking about, or he's full of shit, whatever, right? We also have a subscription service as well. So just get over there and you'll figure it out. Just get to the website and you'll figure it out. Yeah, that's all really.
awesome. Yeah. Everyone definitely support Lee. He's doing amazing things in his I'm just speaking from my own what I see,
Yeah.
what I've witnessed myself, and in the little research that I did. He's a courageous person, and I'm fascinated by the choices that you've made in your life to be the person that you want to be, to live in the life that you want to be. And to me, that's nothing but respect for that, because those are the kind of spaces that I find myself always. So when I meet somebody who is doing it, I want nothing but to support and you know, because you know, it's easy to have a little doubt. And if you don't have that support system, if you don't have that training, the ritual to keep you going, you know, your fans, it can pull us down. So I just want to put that
Definitely.
out there. Whatever goal, whether it's 1 million or like somebody said 1 million plus and one, I think it was, or something like that. Whatever it is that your goal is, I know it's gonna happen. It's just so everyone, if you're listening to this, check out Lee Davy, check out 1000 Days of Sober, support what he's doing, and learn from his team. So
Thank you, Pete. I'll receive that.
all right, 5 questions. You ready?
Yeah, give it to me.
What do you like to do for fun?
What do I like to do for fun? Work.
All right. Do you have specific, if you're willing to share, specific rituals of your own?
I'll share one. Before I go to bed every night, I read for an hour. I read 6 books, 10 minutes each, and I make notes in my notepad what I learned today. And then I turn that into a training video.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for
Yeah.
wow, thank you for sharing that. That's wow, that's amazing. That's very personal. Thank you.
No worries.
What advice would you give your, should we say 20-year-old? I don't know. What's a good age? What advice would you give
20-year-old.
your 20-year-old self?
You're telling yourself that you want and deserve to be special someday, but you kind of got it a little bit wrong. You'll get there, but it's not about being special, because everybody's special. The feeling you're having right now is this vague understanding that you have what it takes to bash through every fucking barrier that will come your way. But it doesn't mean you're special, but that's what you're feeling.
Thank you. Okay, 2 more.
Uh,
I was hesitant to ask, but because of something, inspiration I got from my mom on Sunday. So can you share with us, it doesn't matter what, will you share with us a memory that pops up in your mind that made an impact on you in your own words? Just a memory.
I guess the first memory is I had a physical fight with my ex-wife where I felt I needed to physically throw her out of the house. Otherwise, I was worried that I would physically hurt her. I was worried that I'd never hit a woman in my life, but this has got to the point where I was worried that I would hit her or something, because I was driven to such frustration. And I remember, even though I'm stronger than her and more powerful than her because I'm the man, right? It was such an intense struggle to get her out of the house. And then once I got her out and I locked the door, the feeling of shame was incredible. And that was the day I decided I'm never going to drink alcohol again.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
No worries.
That was a turning point.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. Like, my son was in bed. How would I explain that one? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was done. And I never drunk again.
You know, Aladdin the genie.
Yeah, with a wish.
If you get the lamp and you rub it, you get 3 wishes. What would it be?
That my children have adversity in life and challenge, but they avoid the really bad end of that. So I have a daughter. 1 in 3 women are victims of sexual abuse and rape. I do not want that to happen. But do I want to have the occasional fight and be fired and all that? Yeah, all life doles out some bad things to you, but I want them to run and fall and scratch their knee, but I don't want them to fall out of a tree. All right, that's both of them. So that's one. The other wish is that 1,000 Days Sober grows to be a community that reaches over 1 million people. And I think my third wish would be that I became a world-class communicator, and that I was able to kill my ego so I could really go to the far reaches of my eroticism and intimacy with my wife, which is currently blocked by my inability to kill my ego and my dips below the line in my communication. I really believe that communication is key. If I could somehow program myself to stop needing to be right when I need to be wrong, then I would be okay. So that would be the three, I think.
Wow, I can resonate with that one. I'm learning all of. Oh boy, we'll have to have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend it with me, the listeners.
Yeah, I loved it.
I'm glad.
I hope somebody got something out of it, and that's what it's all about, right? Just like someone gets one thing out of like 60 minutes, it'd be great.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have to do this again in the near future, whenever.
Yeah.
But I appreciate who you are, what you do, and I'm so glad that you reached out to me. I feel like the universe. I always feel like the universe lately, the last since we've been in the pandemic, and my life's changed from LA to back to Minnesota. And I just listen to the universe to show me the way, because sometimes
it's showing you the signs, right?
Yeah. So you enjoy your walk. You enjoy.
I will.
You enjoy that smoothie. Make it nourish you, satiate you. And thank you, brother. And definitely want to continue having conversations with you regarding lots of things under the sun. Okay, I'm going to close off with my 3 things. All right.
Do it.
All right. Thanks, Lee Davy. Take care.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You are loved. You are worthy. You are enough. Blessings to all of you. Thanks, everyone. All right, Lee. Take care. We'll catch you later, okay?
See you later, Pete.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. And remember, you are loved, you are enough, and you are worthy. Blessings to all of you.